Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the quantity theory of money. So let's go right into the quantity theory of money equation, also known as the quantity equation. Basically, the money supply, which is the total amount of money in circulation in an economy, that's going to be multiplied by the velocity of money, which is the amount of times money is exchanged or amount of money exchanged in an economy, pardon me. And then that's going to equal to a price level, which is going to be basically an average current price across goods and services multiplied by real GDP, which is inflation adjusted GDP. Driving the quantity theory of money, we basically can turn this into growth rates. So a percent change in the money supply plus a percent change in the velocity of money would be equal to a percent change in the price level plus a percent change in the real GDP. So when we simplify this, the quantity theory of money makes a couple assumptions here that I'll go over. So the first one would be that the percent change in the velocity of money is going to be 0. So you can kind of see that that's been removed here on the left. And then on the right side, we're basically saying that the percent change in the price level is inflation. So that's how we simplify it here on the down here, and then we rearrange it to solve for inflation. So what are the long run implications? Well, when money supply grows faster than real GDP, we get inflation. So using the quantity theory of money, we can hold the real GDP fixed, meaning that inflation is going to equal that money supply. So a percent change increase in money supply will cause inflation to also increase by that same percent change. And this can kind of be illustrated by this formula here, where inflation is going to be directly related to a percent change in money supply. So the key takeaway here is in the long run, inflation can occur due to changes in money supply. So nominal interest rate inflation, what's the relation? Well, the formula for real interest rate is going to be the real interest rate is equal to nominal interest less the expected inflation. So what does this mean? Well, the real interest rate is going to be an expected variable. This variable is dependent on the future inflation rate. So let's talk about the Fisher effect next. The Fisher effect basically explains that the nominal interest rate can rise or fall by the same amount as the expected future inflation rate rises or falls. The Fisher equation is as follows. So as you can see, we have nominal interest rate here, and that's going to rise or fall based on what expected inflation is. So how does this relate to the quantity theory of money? Well, if money supply is growing quickly, it causes inflation to increase. And so if inflation increases, this would cause nominal interest rates to rise as well. So why is expected inflation a bad thing? Well, there's 4 reasons. The first one is going to be menu costs. And this is basically the cost of having to change your menus often as new prices as inflation causes prices to go up. So think about a restaurant, they have menus like Earl's, and if the prices were constantly rising, they'd have to change their menus often, and that there's an implicit cost in that. The next one would be inflation tax, which is basically like a silent tax on your money. As inflation increases, your money loses value. The third one here is shoe leather cost, which is basically just the cost of having to go to the bank more often, as people want to hold less cash due to expected inflation being high. And then we have tax distortion, which is basically saying that you'd have an increase in inflation would cause your capital gains to be overstated, which would mean higher capital gains tax. And this is going to distort the way people save and make them save less. It's kind of a behavioral effect. So let's go through an example. In China, the money growth rate is 2% per year. If the real output growth is 3% per year, expected rate of change of velocity of money is 2% per year, and the real interest rate is 4% per year, what's going to be that nominal interest rate? Well, the first step is going to be to calculate the inflation rate. And my hint here would be to use that quantity theory of money formula that we used earlier. Well, we have expected inflation is going to be equal to the percent change in money plus the percent change in the velocity supply less the percent change in real GDP. Now, given these inputs that we have above, we can solve for that inflation rate, and that is 1%. Now, we're going to calculate the nominal interest rate using the Fisher equation that we mentioned previously. So kind of plugging in that input of the real interest rate of 4% per year, as well as that calculated 1% over here, we can see that the nominal interest rate is 5%. So the nominal interest rate in China is 5% given these inputs. Here's the citations I used for this presentation. And I really appreciate your time. Thanks.